the stand. Now he runs. He produces a magic print. He pulls out another one. This is incredible. This is ridiculous. This is 15 out of 10 on the incredible meter. What a player. What an entertainer. Give him the medal. Give him the Dally M medal.
Hello, footy fans, and welcome back to the Chip and Chase podcast. We're back. It's a Sunday. Happy Easter, everyone. Easter Sunday today, and that means we're just going to be going through doing our previews for the two Sunday games and also throwing in the Easter Monday game into this one. Of course, we didn't get one of our Saturday games. That one has been pushed to the Monday, that one being the Eels and the Tigers. So we'll wrap that one into this podcast. I'm not going to make a whole podcast just for the Monday game. So we'll be going through our Sunday and Monday games today, and we'll get straight into it, starting with, of course, the New Zealand Warriors taking on the Newcastle Knights, 4:05 p.m. at Go Media Stadium, Auckland. Warriors currently sitting 12th on the ladder, Knights 14th. So far this season, both teams only have one win. But from what we've seen, we all know that the Warriors have been playing a lot better than their ladder suggests. The Knights, they did get a good win last week and they competed really hard against the Cowboys a couple of weeks ago. We know what they did with their run last year. So they're definitely not out of finals conversations at all, not whatsoever. So going to be very excited to see this game, not just because I'm a Warriors supporter, but because these two teams, we know what they can produce on their day, and it's going to be interesting to see if that's what they bring today. Is this either of their days? Is it both of their days? We'll have to find out. So in terms of the ins and outs, we'll start with the Warriors. There's a few going on here, of course. The first of which, probably being Tane Torpiki, he is missing this game with concussion, which means Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, he moves into that fullback role. First game at fullback since he left the club back in 2021. Very exciting stuff to see how he goes there. He obviously played just about half the game in the fullback jersey last week, and he scored a try, and that looked really, really good. Ran for 200 metres. Typical Tuivasa-Sheck stuff. So excited to see how he goes in that role. To cover his centre position, Adam Pompey has been brought into the side. He's number 4. Last time he played the Knights, I believe he came up with a couple try assists and a couple tries. So hopefully we can get that from Adam Pompey again in this one. Very much a criticised player, especially in a lot of Warriors fan pages and forums that I'm in. He cops a lot of shit, Adam Pompey, but I think he's a great player, and a lot of those criticisms are very, very unnecessary. So I hope he absolutely tears it up in this one. Excited to see how he goes. When we scroll down the list a little bit more, we see Wade Egan. He's been named once again, and this time I believe he will play. I think it's, the game's on today in 6 hours or so. If he's not playing now, I'm worried about it. But no, I do think Wade Egan will be named, he has been named, and I think he will play for this one. And on their bench, we have more changes. Marata Niokore, he returns from injury. He's missed the first few weeks with an injury, but he's back in the team. Jersey 15 in this one. And there's a late change. They did have Dylan Walker named, but he has dropped out, and Jazz Tavanga has joined the bench there. So their bench lineup is now Freddie Lussick, who has been starting at 9 for a while, Marata Niokore, Bunty Afoa, and Jazz Tavanga. So no Chanel Harris-Tavita, no Dylan Walker. They're all out of the side. However, when we go over to this Knights side, there's a few ins and outs here too. The first of which being Dane Gagai. He's dropped out of this side he's a late withdrawal, a health issue, undisclosed health issue. So let's keep it that way. Let's not dig too deep into that. Hopefully it's just meant to leave him out of the side for 1 week. So nothing too extreme there, but we don't want to press into health issues like that. So he's dropped out of the side. Dylan Lucas replaces him at centre. So jersey 18 and Dylan Lucas, he'll be lining up in the centres in this one. Of course, not so much a change, but Jack Cogger still named at halfback. Jackson Hastings still in reserve grade. Apparently, he had about 6 try assists in their reserve grade game the other day, Jackson Hastings. So won't be long if he's playing like that. He'll be pushing his way back into this side. Maybe in the place of Tyson Gamble, maybe in the place of Jack Cogger. We will have to see. The other out in this one is Leo Thompson. He's copped a 2-match suspension for the quote-unquote hit he did on Ryan Pappenhausen in the air. Look, I'm not sure how I feel about it. If you want to suspend it, I think 1 week's fine if you're going to suspend that. But if you're doing that stuff and you're suspending players, you have to be consistent. The exact same thing happened to Chanel Harris-Tavita last week, and there was nothing, no charge, no punishment given there. So I think they're just doing it off of names. It's Pappenhausen. We know he's been injured a few years. It happens to him. Everybody's up in arms. Let's suspend Leo Thompson, despite the fact he probably shouldn't. It's just something that happens in rugby league. But when it happens to Chanel Harris-Tavita, it doesn't matter. So, yeah, just be consistent about it, NRL. It's pretty disappointing that you're doing that and you're charging someone like Leo Thompson. In my opinion, neither player should be charged. They're freak accidents that happen. If you're going to go up and contest a ball, which, there's a lot of confidence to do that. But you run the risk of this happening, which is why, being a fullback is so difficult. So unfortunate for Leo Thompson, he'll be missing these 2 weeks. But that means Daniel Saifiti now partners his brother Jacob. They're the two starting front rowers for the Newcastle Knights. Kai Pearce-Paul once again getting the run at second row. Dylan Lucas started the season obviously playing centre now. Wasn't even in this side until the Dane Gagai scratching. So Kai Pearce-Paul looks to have locked that position up. On the bench, not too much of note. Jaden Brayley, of course, still playing. Matt Croker and Jack Hetherington, Jack Hetherington and Dylan Lucas. I'm not sure. There were 2 late scratchings last week, but regardless, Jack Hetherington is back into this side with Matt Croker, Brodie Jones, and as I said, Jaden Brayley at 14. So those are the teamless changes for these 2 clubs. So we will move into the tips. Of course, maybe a bit biased. I'm a Warrior supporter. I have tipped the Warriors. I don't think it's biased. I think most people out there are tipping the Warriors. Knights haven't looked that great to start this season. We know what they can do. And if they're on, they can bring their best and we'll have a really entertaining game here. I just think Warriors at home, Warriors still settling into their rhythms. They look really good. I think they get this done. I love their team. I really do. I'm so excited about our team. So the Warriors were my tip in this one for my footy tipping competitions. I think they get done. As I said, the Knights have more than enough firepower to get it done, and we will have to see that. I'm expecting a really fun, entertaining game here. So really excited for this one, but the Warriors are my tip. In terms of where I see this one being won, well, it has to be the forward pack. I know I say it all the time, but so far this season, that's what I've been the most disappointed in about the Newcastle Knights. Their forward pack has not stood up. The only time that they did was last week, and of course that means they got their win. But for the other games, they've just been quite passive in defence. They haven't been making the inroads through the middle. No runs in behind the ruck. The Saifitis just haven't really looked to fire too much of a shot. But I like the idea of them both starting. I think they're going to be both out there wanting to one-up each other. Whether or not they have strike off the bench is going to be the next big question. I think once these 2 Saifiti twins come off, where does their punch come from? Matt Croker, Jack Hetherington, Brodie Jones, all good players in their own rights. But do they have that sort of attack? They're not as gigantic as the Saifiti twins, and you're up against a really big, really mobile, really strong Warriors pack here. So I assume after that first 20 minutes, once the Saifiti twins jump off the field, I think that's when the Warriors are going to get a bit of a roll on here. I think just the way that they've been playing through their forward pack, the way they're utilising every player in a unique role and to the best of their strengths, to the best of their abilities, I think they will get through the Knights one pretty easily. Well, maybe not pretty easily. As I said, I want it to be expect it to be a tough, gritty opening, 20-25. But I think after that, the Warriors will settle into their structures. Their bench is just a lot stronger, in my opinion. They have a lot more like-for-like replacements and just a lot more attack. But the thing about Coach Andrew Webster as a coach is he plays to each player's best abilities. Like Bunty, he's not going to stop Bunty from running off the back fence. And Bunty, in his own right, fantastic defender. Marata Niokore, we know how versatile he is. He's a back rower. He's bloody adept at centre. He's probably going to be playing through the middle in this one. We know he runs hard and he can run a fantastic line. Webster's playing to that ability. And we know when it comes to forward, great line runner. Capewell, he can offload, he can pass, he can sort of step around. He lets these players play exactly how they should. And that's the best part about this team. I think with Wade Egan back in the side, it's just going to be too much for the Knights. The Warriors forwards will get a bit of a roll on and they'll end up rolling the Knights forward pack, and that'll lead to some points and probably the victory for the Warriors. That's how I see this one playing out. In terms of my favourite matchup in this one, well, you've got to go with the two steppers, the two fullbacks, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck and Kalen Ponga, two of the best footwork players in our game, probably third place, if you want to call it third place, is also in this game with Sean Johnson, especially back in his heyday, obviously a bit older now, doesn't do it quite as much, but when these guys are on, we know what we can expect. And I'm so excited to see Roger in that fullback role against KP, who you can say he's had a down year. I don't think he's had too much of a down year. He's been trying to get involved. It's just really hard to get yourself involved when your forward pack is just losing the battle as it has been. So Ponga, I think he's actually been pretty good. I expect him to have another good game where he stands up and delivers and tries to match it against this Warriors team, especially in that fullback duel. Just he'll want the chockies over someone like Roger Tuivasa-Sheck. People forget 2018 when Roger won the Dally M, second place was Kalen Ponga. So Kalen Ponga could be a two-time Dally M winner if it wasn't for Roger Tuivasa-Sheck in 2018. So I think he'll love that challenge, KP, and I think he'll be up for it. And Roger, we know what we expect from Roger. He's going to be fantastic. I've actually got the captain on him in Supercoach, so really excited to see how he goes. But that's definitely my matchup in this one. There's a few more out there. Obviously, I've loved Rocco Berry this season. I believe he'll be marking up against Bradman Best. Really like that as a matchup. Love those two players. But beyond that, yeah, not too much. I'm just looking at that fullback duel, and I'm really excited for that. Which means we will jump into our bets for this one. Now, this one, it's going a bit more extreme. It's definitely not as light around that, the $10 sort of range the odds that I normally sort of land on for multis. But this one, I've got the Warriors winning head to head. It's pretty good value in the Warriors just head to head. I didn't need a 13 plus or a 1 to 12 or lines or whatnot. I just like the value in Warriors head to head. I've got Sean Johnson as an anytime try scorer. Hasn't scored a try so far this year. Maybe he has. He might have scored in round one. I don't know. But I just expect him to, well, not expecting, but, I think there's a high possibility he can cross in this one. And I've got Rocco Berry scoring as well. He hasn't scored too many this year. He's looked very, he's gotten close a few times and he's looked very, very good. So I like him as the third leg. And the odds for that come to $18. So if you put in $1 on that and all three legs get up, you win $18 back for the dollar. So I'll read through them again. That is Warriors head-to-head, Sean Johnson anytime try scorer, and Rocco Berry anytime try scorer. I didn't do a total match points this time. Just thought, this one I liked a bit better. And that's $18 for that. Once again, all of my betting is done through Sportsbet. I am not affiliated with Sportsbet in any way. They are just the agency that I choose to bet with. So if you're trying to follow any of these multis, any of these odds, you have to do it through Sportsbet because a lot of these markets may not be available in other sports betting agencies. And even if they are, the odds may be completely different. So if you're wanting to ride along with me, the best place to do it is Sportsbet. And once again, I'll say it every time, but gamble responsibly. Don't bet what you can't afford. It's just for a bit of fun. And if gambling is no longer fun for you, please seek help. There is no shame in that whatsoever. But that one will wrap us up for the first game of our Easter Sunday, which means we will get into the second game, which of course is the Cronulla Sharks taking on the Canberra Raiders, 6:15 p.m. PointsBet Stadium, Sydney. So it is a Sharkies home game. Sharkies currently sitting in 11th, Raiders in 5th. Who knows how accurate that all is because of, we've had games this season and the ladder updates as it all goes. But Sharks, they lost last week. They can't be in 11th. Have they not won twice and lost once? Jeez. If they are, that's a pretty close competition. Regardless, Sharks come in, currently sitting in 11th place, Raiders in 5th. I'm very excited about this game as well. I think these two teams stack up really well across the park. It's a shame that the Sharkies lost basically their entire forward pack, which we will get into in just a second, because I've loved these two forward packs. Just depth, like for likewise. I love how they just stack up against each other. So it is going to be interesting how it plays out, but we will get into the ins and outs to start. So for the Sharkies, as I mentioned, they are without a lot of forwards. So to start with, let's start by going with Kale Ero is currently playing left centre for the Sharks. He's in jersey 4. The reason for that is Siosifa Talakai, who's been arguably the best centre in the competition so far this year. He's moved to back row, so he's in jersey 11, which pushes Jack Williams, who played in the back row last week, to the bench. So Jack Williams will be middle cover. Tommy Hazelton has been promoted to start at front row. So he's number 8. He's partnered with Oregon Kaufusi. He'll still the run on front row. And then the bench ins and outs, we have Tuku Hautapua, who made his debut 2 weeks ago, I believe, for the Sharkies. He looked really good in his bloody 10-minute stint or whatever it was. He looked really good. So good to see him getting another crack. Billy Burns is on the bench, and Daniel Atkinson comes in at jersey 14. So I'll just read their entire forward pack so we sort of know how that lines up. But that is Tom Hazelton and Oregon Kaufusi in the front row positions. Blake Brayley, obviously, at hooker. Siosifa Talakai and Teague Wilton are the second rowers, and Cameron McInnes, the captain, is still the lock forward. So the outs for this team, we lose Dale Finucane, we lose Royce Hunt, and we lose Toby Rudolph. All three of those big boppers are out, and still no Braden Hamlin-Uele. Looks like he's still a week or two away. So they've had to do a lot of changes in this one. You know, when you're moving your best centre, your best player this year in Talakai to the forwards, just so you can, you know, fix this stuff, just to plug gaps. It's a bit worrying, but when you've got not so much a like for like replacement, but when you've got a replacement like Kale Ero, you're pretty set up there. Absolute freak of a player, and I'm excited to see how he goes. He's going to feature in a few bets, I reckon. Regardless, we'll go into the Canberra Raiders ins and outs. So Elliot Whitehead, he is once again out with a hamstring injury. We're unsure if it's the exact same hamstring that kept him out of the opening few rounds, but that means Zach Hosking, he starts at second row again, which I just think, respectfully to the Raiders, is better for them. Elliot Whitehead, great player, and I'm not shirking anything away from Whitehead. I just think Zach Hosking, how he started this season, he might not have just been the best player for the Raiders, but he might have been the best player in the competition for the opening couple rounds. I can't believe he was moved to the bench. But he's back in that starting side, and that's fantastic for the Canberra Raiders. Zach Hosking is a gun, and I love him. The other stuff comes in their backs. Nick Kotrick, he drops out of the side, and as does Albert Hopewate, who has suffered some gnarly burns to his arms after a cooking accident. So he misses, apparently only expected to miss the 1 week, but he is out as well. Seb Chris returns from, I believe it was the HIA, so he is in the centres, number 4 for Sebastian Chris. And James Schiller comes onto the wing for Nick Kotrick, who was just simply dropped out of this squad. Schiller looked exceptional in the trials, so excited to see how he goes once again in his NRL game in his first NRL game in this one. Beyond that, there's not too much of note, except for Big Red making his way onto the interchange. Jersey 19 for Corey Horsburgh. First game of the season, first game of 2024 for Corey. So excited to see Big Red back in this Raiders side. We know how good he is. He was a Queensland incumbent last year, so really good stuff to see. In terms of my tips for this game, now I have gone with the upset. The Canberra Raiders, they were paying, let me check, the odds might have changed a bit now, but the Canberra Raiders were massive underdogs in this one. They still are. $2.32 for the Canberra Raiders to win this game. I think that's ridiculously unders. Like, that's, jump on that, or overs, sorry, that's ridiculously overs. $2.32. When the forward pack of the Sharks, like all of them are gone, I think the Raiders can absolutely more than match it. We know the Raiders forward pack is one of the best in the competition. The Raiders have been playing arguably better footy than the Sharks so far this season. I've been really impressed with them. Why can't they win this? Why are the Sharks favourites? Is it just because of last year? You know, we forget that the Raiders were still a top 8 team last year, and I think they're playing better at the moment than they were last year. So, yeah, I went straight for the Raiders head-to-head. Honestly, if you threw money on just that leg, it's good value there. But, you know me, we do the bets around here. So, hang on, we won't go into the bets. We'll get back to the bets. Let's just get back to the tipping. Yeah, I've tipped the Raiders. I really like how their forward pack matches up. I think they can... Not so much steamroll. We know the forward pack of the Sharkies is still good. They've got depth across the park. But it's going to be tested, and it's going to be tested in a big way against this Raiders forward pack. They're so mobile. They've got so much depth. As soon as someone comes off, you're not really losing much impact with their replacement. So I'm really excited to see how this Raiders forward pack go against the Sharkies. I'm really disappointed. I'm really upset that it's not a full strength battle, because I really would have liked to see how they matched up. But because it's not, I do think the Raiders forward pack can sort of make inroads and get some quick play of the balls. And we know that the Raiders have been pretty electric in their attack, and Ethan Strange, I think he'll look to run off the back of a few things. He's growing in confidence every game. So if/when the Raiders win through the middle, I think the back line of the Raiders will be able to find a bit of space and score a few points, and it will lead to them picking up the Chockies in this one. I think they get the 2 points. I think they get the win in this game over the Sharkies. As I said, that's sort of how I see the game playing out. The Sharks, they definitely could win it. We know that they're a classy football team. And while they have lost so many players, you look at their squad, Tommy Hazelton, who's been probably their best forward so far this season. Now he gets to start. He gets increased minutes. Korfusi, I thought he's been pretty quiet this season. I'm a big Korfusi guy, but he's still there. Talakai moving into second row. I mean, you've still got weapons there. They've still got a great team, so they can definitely upset me here and prove me all wrong and make me look like a fool, as a few teams have done so far this season. And they can definitely win this one. I just think the Raiders are going to be up for this challenge and they can get it done. But if the Sharkies can match it in the middle, we know what they can do. I think Hines is going to be out for a much improved game. Obviously, had one of his poorer performances I've ever seen in his career last week. A few balls out on the full, just wasn't himself. He's going to know that he needs to improve in this one. And Nicho Hines, he does that. He'll come out with a chip on his shoulder and he'll look to play a really good game of footy. So I'm really excited to see how Nicho goes in this game. And I think the Sharks can still score a few points. And that we know how dangerous they are. Their back line, they get through so much work. So even if their forward pack is a bit depleted, is a bit low on troops, this back line of the Sharkies, they'll pick up some work. Rabian, Mulatalo, Katoa, they'll be running and they'll be making a few meters. So yeah, really excited to see this game. It's going to be a great game of footy. I've just got the Raiders as my tip for this one. We will move into our matchups. Now, there's a few to note. There's a lot of matchups across the park that I'm really excited to see. Once again, you know me, I've been talking a lot about centre duels so far this season, and here is no exception. I love Jesse Ramian and Kale Iro against Matt Timoko and Sebastian Chris. I'm so happy Chris is back in the centres for the Raiders. I think Timoko and Chris can be their centres for a long, long time. They're just gun players. And we know how much I love Jesse Ramian. Obviously, my little pod and super coach didn't go too well last week, so I'm hoping he gets an improved performance here. I really love him as a player, and I love him in this Sharks jersey. And Kale Iro, a lot of raps on him, particularly from the Rugby League Guru. We know that Kale Iro was one of the incumbent, could be anythings in the NRL. So really excited to see how he gets his shot. We know he's only had the one game so far, but he'll be looking to come in, impress, and hopefully wrap that spot up. If Talakai has a fantastic performance in the second row and Iro has a fantastic performance in the centres, it's going to create headaches. Maybe Craig Fitzgibbon keeps Iro in the centres. It maybe saves him, going to other clubs who will be looking to secure his talents. And, you're still keeping Talakai doing his work in the back row. So he'll be looking to have a really good game, Iro, and I just love the matchup from the centre perspectives. So I'm not going to single out either centres from the clubs, but just the entire centre duels I'm going to really, really look forward to. Across the park, I also like the 5/8 duel. I think Braden Trindle, I'm a big Trindle fan. Shout out the wee war boy. He hasn't been very good this season, in my opinion. I love Trindle, but I think he's been quite poor, or at least, just not, he's pretty average, if you will. And I think he's going to want to have a much improved performance. He scored a try last week, though. I think it was last week. Regardless, he hasn't been overly, poor, I suppose, but just from what I know he can produce and what I expect from Trindle, I haven't been the most impressed with him. I think he'll have a good opportunity to stamp his authority on the league and on this Sharkies team in this game. Of course, his opposite number, Ethan Strange, he's finding his footy. As I said, he's growing in confidence every game. So I expect these two to come into this game and just, play confident and play fast and play direct and have good games. So I'm really excited to see the 5/8 duel as well. Beyond that, there's not too much. There's Teague Wilton, Zach Hosking, two of the best line runners in rugby league going up against it. Always love that. Anytime I can give a shout out or put Zach Hosking's name in my mouth, I'll do it. Love that bloke. Love how he plays his footy. But yeah, of course, my first and my favourite matchup are the centre duels, Jesse Ramian, Kale Iro, and Matt Timoko and Sebastian Chris. That is my matchup. Well, those are my matchups for this game. So we will move into our bet, which we alluded to earlier, the first leg of which is Canberra Raiders head-to-head. As I said, value on that, loved it. So Raiders head-to-head, all for it. Now, I've got Jesse Ramian as an anytime try scorer. I'm going to back him in. I love Jesse Ramian. I'm hoping he doesn't disappoint me again. And not that he's been disappointing, he just didn't score me that many points in Supercoach last week, which isn't the be-all and end-all. I still think Ramian's having a really good season for the Sharkies, but that is my try-scorer bet in this multi. And then the last leg is under 41.5 total match points. That one I'm very unsure of, but it has made the odds quite extensive. The odds for this multi are $22.75. So if you're putting $1 on that and all three legs get up, you win $22.75 back to the dollar. So once again, we will read through those. That is Canberra Raiders head-to-head, Jesse Ramian anytime try scorer, and under 41.5 total match points. Let's hope it gets up. Would not hate that sort of money. We did get a win the other night, by the way. We got up on... What bet did we get up on? Give me a quick look. The Dolphins-Titans multi. So that one was paying $10.25. Got a few dollars on that. Won a bit of money there. So I think that's my third win of the season. So definitely not my best performances, but with the odds that I'm getting on these multis, pretty happy to get a few wins here and there. They just fund the next week's multis, to be honest. But yeah, it's just a bit of fun, just a bit of content. Once again, all through Sportsbet. So if you want to follow along, do it through Sportsbet. But those are my legs for the Raiders-Sharkies game, and that will conclude the preview for this one. So we will get into our final game, that of course being the Easter Monday. Eels taking on the Wests Tigers. Eels currently 6th. Tigers are currently sitting in 9th. How about that? Isn't that good to see? I guess they have had a bye and got the win last week, so they've technically got 4 competition points, which is really good. This one is taking place 4 p.m. Monday, Combank Stadium. So it is a Eels home game, but not far to travel. I assume it will be a pretty even split of fans in this one. A lot of Tigers fans I expect in the crowd for this game, and as there should be. Played so well last week. I'm so excited to see what their future entails. But we'll start with the ins and outs for this game, starting with the Parramatta Eels. Mike Acevo, he makes his return to the side. He's been suspended for the first few weeks of the competition. He is back on the wing, which pushes Morgan Harper into the centres. Bailey Simonson's still out of the side at the moment, but good to see Acevo back. Blaise Talangi has been moved from the centres to 5/8, and Dylan Brown has been moved to halfback to cover the loss of Mitchell Moses. He's expected to miss up to 10 weeks with a injury there. So really good to see young Blaise Talangi get another shot here. I forgot to mention him in my review last week. I just couldn't believe it slipped my mind, but fantastic debut, fantastic junior coming through. Scored a try last week, so really good stuff to see. I'm excited to see him in this 5/8 jersey. I think he's more accustomed to this sort of role, and hopefully he can have an extended shot at that and let Dill Brown run the show at halfback. So really excited to see how that lines up for them. Good to see Talangi in that 5/8 role. For their forward pack, once again, Junior Paulo named at starting front row. He'll probably come off the bench, so don't worry about that too much. And there's not much to note for the rest of the team. Luca Moretti's still getting to go on the interchange. I thought he was good last week. Kelma Talangi, apparently he's not that injured, so he's still playing. But yeah, not too much to note for the Eels, mainly just the Mitch Moses news and Mike Acevo in. As for the Tigers, there's a few more here. Actually, there's only the one, isn't there? So they've got a very much unchanged team from last week, and as you would, you got your win, you did well. The only in and out is Alex Twal. He will miss this game with a concussion, I believe. So Asu Kapoa comes in for his first game of the 2024 season for the Tigers. Really good to see him get a shot. Love what he brings to this Tigers team. But that wraps us up for the ins and outs for the teamless news. So we'll go straight into the tips. I have tipped the Parramatta Eels. I just think I've been really impressed with what I've seen from them so far this season. Tigers, I was really, really impressed with them last week. But let's see if they can back it up, for one more week or 2 more weeks before I start buying a few more, tickets into their games. As I said, really impressive stuff from them. I'm just going to tip what I know, tip the Eels who I just know are a top 8 threat, while the Tigers I'm still reserved on. If Tigers can win this game and they can prove that, then we'll start, putting a few tips on them. But for now, it is the Parramatta Eels who I've tipped in my competitions. Just think that they've got so much strike across the board. They know where they want to be it comes September, and that is in the finals. So they're my tip for this one. In terms of how I see it playing out, well, it's a very different one. I love the forward pack duel. Tigers, of course, in their first game, I thought their forward pack was one of the worst I've ever seen. Like, they just didn't fire a shot in attack, and they were so lazy in defence. Last week, after a couple changes, I thought they were a lot better. I still think Stefano should be coming off the bench and Twal starting. Not that it matters in this game because Twal isn't even playing. But I think Stefano should come off the bench and he can match what Junior Paulo does. That is the big thing with this Parramatta side, is they've got so much strike in their forward pack. It's probably one of the best forward packs in the competition, that they can win that opening 20, or they can at least go with any forward pack for the opening 20 minutes. And then you bring on Junior Paulo, and then you bring on Ryan Madison. And like when you sub players off and your team gets better, or arguably gets better, that is a dangerous footy side to go up against. And I think that's going to be the difference maker for the Parramatta in a lot of games this year. I'm probably going to highlight that in all of my previews for the rest of the season. I just think they've got such a talented team. Of course, it is going to be interesting to see how they get led around the park. The forward pack can only do so much, and without Mitch Moses, can Dill Brown and Blaze Talangi step into their roles and really take control of this game? That remains to be seen. I have no doubt that Dill Brown will do his best to do that, and I believe in the talents of Talangi, but they're not Mitch Moses, and we know Mitch Moses is an out-and-out halfback who can lead a team. So that remains to be seen. That one's an interesting watch. But yeah, I just think that the forward pack from the Eels, especially when you sub those players on at around that 20-minute mark, how are you meant to match up against that? I'm not sure. So we'll have to see. I think the Tigers, if they play like they did last week, they can definitely do a good job of it. And I'm very excited for this game as well. I think it's going to be a cracking Easter Monday game. Normally, these Easter Monday games are always pretty entertaining. Doesn't really matter where the teams are on the ladder. You always get some good footy played. So I'm really excited to see how that goes this week. If we move into my matchups for this one, look, I think it has to be the 5/8. We have the two 18-year-olds, Blaze Talangi and Lachlan Galvin. Galvin, he's had one more game of experience so far, but he's looked absolutely terrific in the NRL this season. He does not look out of place. In fact, he's probably been the Tigers' best player for this season so far. So when you've got an 18-year-old doing what he does, you've got to be so excited about the future. Love what Lachlan Galvin brings. And he's up against Talangi, of course. He's only had the one NRL game, and it was at centre. So it will be interesting to see how he lines up at 5/8. But I think he's more naturally suited to this position. He's a footballer. And when you're an eyes-up player like Talangi, 5/8 is one of those perfect jerseys for you. So they have to be the matchup. Like, I think such exciting talents, and I know that the people in these clubs, they've had their wraps on these two players for a long time, and there's every reason for that. So far, they've shown us exactly why. It has to be the matchup. I don't think anything comes close to these two. I'm hoping for really good games from both, hoping for controlled games, defending well. We know what we get from Galvin. He hasn't missed a tackle so far this season. Talangi, he's arguably been the better talent coming through the grades. Obviously different sorts of players, but Talangi, there's been so much about him. The Eels are so high on him. I'm really excited to see how they match up. I think that's going to be such a good duel. God, I'm excited for this game. The more I look at it, the more excited I am. But that is, my absolute favourite matchup in this one. I also like Justin Olam and Will Penasini up against each other. Pretty sure they'll be up against each other. Yeah, left side, right side. Yeah, Penasini and Justin Olam, really like that. The strike centres for these two teams. It's good when you try and combine the words teams and sides and you end up with seams. But yeah, really excited to see how that matchup goes up against each other in the centres as well. Beyond that, forward pack battle, just everything about this clash. I'm actually just so excited for it. But yeah, definitely Blaze Talangi, Lachlan Galvin. That is my number one matchup for this game. So we will not waste any further time. We'll go straight into my bet for this one. Now, it's a bit more reserved compared to the last two and the odds that they ended up, but I have just picked the Parramatta Eels head-to-head in this one. Not bad value. There's also not bad value on the Tigers. If you see them getting an upset, there's really good odds on them. or even, go Tigers with to cover the line or something. There's good value there. But I've just gone Parramatta Eels head-to-head. Don't know if it's going to be 13+. Don't know if it's going to be 1-12. Hell, I don't even know if they're going to win. I just have a feeling they will. So they're my first leg, Parramatta Eels head-to-head. I've got Dylan Brown as an anytime try scorer. He hasn't crossed so far this season, I believe. I think I've bet on him a couple times, or at least once this season, and I've always mentioned him in the matchups. But yeah, I think maybe in that halfback role, he looked to run a lot last week. He'll obviously have to do a bit more of a controlling game as the halfback now. But I think he'll do a good balance of the running and kicking and everything in between. So Dylan Brown, I don't mind him as a try scorer bet in this one. And I've got the match going over 45.5 total match points. Both of these teams, they've proved that they can attack from anywhere on the field and they can score points. So I'm really confident in that leg. So we'll go over them again. That is Parramatta Eels head-to-head, Dylan Brown anytime try scorer, and over 45.5 total match points. And the odds for that only come to $8. So if you're putting $1 on that and all three legs get up, you win $8 back to the dollar. So definitely a bit more reserved compared to my other ones. But sometimes you have to be reserved. Sometimes you have to just go with something that you're a bit more, that you believe in a bit more. There's more chance of it getting up. So that is my bet for this one. I'm not going to pry on about sports bet or whatnot. Just once again, guys, gamble responsibly. If it's not fun for you anymore, please do seek help. There is no shame in that. And yeah, if you are choosing to follow any of these bets and they don't get up, don't come at me. You're choosing to do this of your own accord. But that wraps us up for the Sunday and Monday, the Easter Sunday, Monday game previews. So thank you guys for tuning into this one. Once again, I'll plug the Instagram. If you're following any of these bets, get over there, swing me a message. We can chat about it. We can have a bit of banter about it. If not, it's a good place to interact with me. It's a good place to see a lot of stuff that doesn't quite make the podcast. It's picking up over there. I'm working really hard on trying to make some really nice looking posts for everybody to engage with. So if you're not following me on there, please do head over there at Chip and Chase Podcast. But once again, I'll just thank you guys for tuning into this one, and I'll see you guys next time.